Good morning, everyone. Well, what are we talking about today? My name is Alana and I'm a Canadian, but I have been living here in the UK for the last 8 years. And today I wanted to share 6 things that I think fellow expats need, but ones that you haven't thought about. Moving to the UK is obviously extremely exciting. Overwhelming, yes. Exciting, also yes. And it's very easy to overlook things until you actually need them and realize you don't have them. Now, obviously you need a passport and you need a valid visa and whatever, but today we're talking about things that are likely to be overlooked. Starting with number 1, what do you do if the power goes out? Now, this is the reason this whole video kicked off. I was sitting on the couch and our power flickered and it went off for a minute and it came back. And I was sitting there and I was thinking, I don't think I have anything should the power go off and stay off. Like, do I have enough candles? Do I have a lighter that works? Do I have matches? Like, do I have anything? Do I have a flashlight? Now, of course, with smartphones, you will have a flashlight or a torch, as the Brits would say, and it is very good, but if the power is off for a long amount of time, you don't want to be wearing down your phone by using the torch. So get supplies. Make sure you have a couple candles, make sure you have a couple of matches or one of those like long lighters or whatever you like. Just have something should the power go out. It's one of those things where if you live in a place long enough, you will like organically kind of like accumulate this sort of stuff. But when you just move into a place on your own and you don't have anything, then you have a problem. Number 2, and quite possibly my most important favorite, almost favorite, can I pick a favorite thing, is to have a sick box. And I know that sounds gross. Let me explain. As an expat to the UK, you are going to get sick. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And to be fair, it typically happens pretty quickly. There are so many germs and strains of cold and flu and all sorts of fun stuff that you have never been exposed to. You will get sick. And it sucks. But kind of like having supplies for a power outage, you don't necessarily have stuff for when you get ill because you've never been ill here before. So you haven't had time to like accumulate all that kind of stuff. Or if you were previously living like back home with family, your parents probably had, a medicine cabinet that had random stuff. So if you got sick, you had something at least. But it's likely here, you will have absolutely nothing. So one of my biggest tips, honestly, is to prepare ahead of time. So buy a plastic tub or keep an Amazon cardboard box or go to the supermarket and there's like little organizational tubs you can get some sort of box and fill it with the most important cold and flu type products. So things like sore throat lozenges. Nothing worse when you have a sore throat and you have nothing for it. Cold and flu stuff, whether you like the liquid or the tablets, painkillers like paracetamol or ibuprofen or one of each. Also things like band-aids or plasters. I would throw in because obviously those are pretty important, and any other little bits that you like to have when you get ill. There is nothing worse than being sick alone in a foreign country and maybe it takes you an hour on the bus to get to a good supermarket. You really don't want to be doing that when you are super ill. So preemptively get this stuff together ahead of time. And also, expat tip, did you know there is a limit on how many things that contain painkillers you can buy in one go? Because I did not know that. So in Canada and the US, you could buy, like if you go to Costco, you could get, or Walmart, giant tubs of like Advil. There's like 150 tablets in one thing. And nobody cares. But here there is actually a limit. So you could not go to Sainsbury's and buy a little tub and buy painkillers and a different type of painkillers and cold and flu liquid and cold and flu tablets. They will not allow you to buy that all together. So my big tip would be buy it incrementally. I think the limit is 2 items per transaction. So get your 2 most important things while you're doing a grocery shop. Next grocery shop, get 2 more things. Or when you're passing Boots, pop in and grab 2 more things and slowly buy them in pieces. Number 3, we have to talk about the lack of sunlight. And honestly, this one still surprises me 8 years later. One thing I really struggle with is the minimal sunlight throughout the winter. I didn't realize it would be a big deal. Thought I can handle it? Sure. No. Seasonal depression. Oh my God. It could be days of rainy, gray, dark weather, especially if you leave the house for work before it is sunny and you get home after the sun has set. There will be times when it feels like you do not see daylight for a while. So the biggest thing for me was taking vitamin D3 supplements throughout the wintertime, but also using a sad light. I got just kind of a cheapy one off of Amazon. I'll put some links down below. The combination of those really does help. Maybe you won't be as impacted, but if you come from someplace like America, Canada, Australia, I feel like it's going to be very noticeable. So you have been warned. And the best I can say is good luck. Number 4, this one is kind of obvious, but guess what? It is a smartphone. Now, when I moved to the UK in end of 2015, I did not have a smartphone. I know, kind of wild. And I actually didn't have a smartphone for at least 2 years after that. And while I could scrape by, it was really difficult and it just made daily life that much more of a struggle. Nowadays, I honestly do believe it is not impossible, but nearly impossible to get by without a smartphone. I buy all my train tickets on my smartphone and I house them in my smartphone. So when I go to the train station, I scan my phone and I can use the train. I do the same thing on the bus. It's all done on my phone. Even silly things like when I go to the cinema, when I go to the movie theaters, my ticket is a QR code on my phone and they scan it and I go in. I also basically pay for everything with my phone. If I go to Tesco and I'm doing a grocery shop, I will pay with my phone. I'm pretty sure the limit was increased to something crazy like 300 pounds that you could tap like Apple Pay, which is wild. So there will be times when I take my phone and not my wallet and I will catch the train. I will go to a nearby city or town. I'll go out to lunch. I'll go shopping. I'll take the train home and I will do all of that with my smartphone and not bring my wallet, which is kind of crazy. I think I put it off originally because for Canadians and Americans, mobile plans are so expensive. Like I'm pretty sure my mom's mobile plan in Ontario is well over $100 a month, which is terrible and awful and gross, and I really didn't want that. But here in the UK, it is shocking how affordable plans are. So currently, this is what I did. You don't have to do what I did. I bought my iPhone, which was not cheap. Obviously, we know what iPhones are like, but I bought it outright from Apple. Then I have a mobile plan with 3, which 3 is great. I haven't had any issues with 3. So my mobile plan is £10 a month for unlimited talk, text, and 10 gigabytes of data, which I never use up because I don't often leave my house. But £10. Of course, subtracting the cost of the phone, but I've had this phone for a few years now, it served me well. £10 a month for all the stuff that I need. So personally, I wish I had started this earlier because the first few years when I was trying to get by without a smartphone was painful and anxious and just difficult. Number 5, I would wholeheartedly recommend you get a UK rail card. If you're going to use the train, I would say twice a month, 3 times a month, maybe. You will pay back the cost of a rail card very quickly. I didn't buy a rail card for years because I really didn't think it was worth it. And that was so stupid. So just in case you're not familiar, a rail card is a kind of like a membership. There's different varieties, often based on age. So the one that I have is the 26 to 30-year-old rail card. I pay for that card once a year. It's £30. It's a really simple sign-up process. It's all digital, so it's on my phone. And every time I buy train tickets, I apply my 26 to 30-year-old rail card and I get a discount if you are eligible. Some journeys don't qualify for a discount, but I apply it every time just in case. And that way you are able to get discounted rail tickets for the year that you have that rail card. If you come from a country like me, like I'm from Canada, traveling by public transport is basically impossible. Unless you live in a big city like Toronto, you have to drive. So public transport and trains and all that fun stuff was very foreign to me when I moved here. And I wish that I had applied for that rail card immediately because I would have saved so much money in those first few years. Number 6, what are you going to need in the UK? That is UK appropriate clothing. Now, depending on where in the world you are from, the UK may be very different in terms of climate, in terms of clothes, in terms of weather. So what I ended up doing was I moved to the UK in November. So I needed warm clothing immediately. So when I was packing, I focused more so on sort of winter, spring kind of clothes because those were going to be the seasons that I was going to be experiencing first. And then I already knew that I was planning on going back to Canada in July to visit my family. So I knew in July I would go home with a very empty suitcase, fill it up with more summer, autumn stuff, and then bring it back. Now, you may not have a situation like that or have the opportunity to go home that quickly. So my biggest tip would be to prioritize the stuff you're going to need immediately and also the stuff that is more expensive to rebuy in the UK. Some big things that come to mind for me are clothing that can be layered. The temperature here can really change, you know, hour by hour, day by day. So having clothes that you can layer, take off, add on is just really helpful. I would also say like winter coat is kind of a tricky one. As a Canadian, I have a Canada winter coat back in Canada that is huge and puffy and it has a giant puffy like fake fur hood. It's way too much for winters here. So instead I bought a lighter winter coat that was also very much waterproof because here you're much more likely to get rained on than you are to be snowed on. So just keep in mind some differences between your home climate and this new British one. Layers are so helpful. A winter coat that is more suited for rain, although it does get really cold here. Also boots. My boots here are much more suited for like slushy, rainy, muddy weather compared to ice and snow back in Canada. The shopping in the UK is great though, so if you did forget something or you didn't have room for something, it is very easy to buy stuff here. Obviously, you just want to limit how much you do that because of money. And things cost money. If you have any questions about moving to the UK, please leave a comment down below. If you're still unsure about rail cards or you want to learn more, definitely check out my video breaking down exactly what they are. But until then, I'll see you in the next one.